All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and get into this. This is the second part of the series of the Joel GRANNAS and GRANNAS Racing T56 Magnum swap for the Toyota Supra. First thing we're going to do is work on the reverse lockout and the plug here. So if you guys can see right here, there's a plug down here in the transmission that actually, what normally is here is a plastic plug. Joel supplies a aluminum plug for you guys to put in here. I've already installed it, so you just need to do that. It's really simple. Next, what we're going to do is this reverse lockout. What this is for American cars or more newer cars, this is actually actuated to go into reverse. Because our car is old and we don't have this option and we're not going to wire it in, we need to take this apart and cut down the spring that's inside of here. There is 1/2 inch bolt here you need to loosen up, and then we can pop this right out. Bolt. And then it comes out as one piece. So now guys, I'm gonna take you over here and show you what to do next. All right guys, so next thing you're gonna wanna do is, I highly recommend doing this in a vise. There's a little detent here. What you wanna do is use your vise. You can see it goes in and in and in. Get it to a certain point, and you'll see that there's a little C-clamp in there. Now you wanna make sure you give yourself enough room, like I just didn't. We wanna make sure I give myself just enough room to get that detent in, and then we can get these C-clips out. All right guys, so here's the C-clip that we moved that was inside of here, and now you can see that this detent is loose, so we'll go ahead and pull this out. Now, if you'll see here guys, there is a little bit of grease. The inside of this is hollow. You have this little spring here, do not lose this. And here's the spring that we need to take apart and we need to cut down. Now again, here we have a little detent on this, or a little C-clip that we need to remove, and we'll be able to pull this out. All right guys, next thing you're gonna do is take this part of it here with the spring, and you'll see here's the next little, I call it the little C-clip. You're gonna wanna take the pressure off it, as you can see here, and then you can slide it off. Be careful when you do this, this thing tends to fly away, so make sure you got your hand near it, a magnet, or whatever you wanna do, and once you do that, the spring will come out. All right guys, so now that we have the spring out, what we need to do is take one section of it off here. Rule of thumb for this little mod is we're gonna cut it right at this little lip right here. We're gonna cut one small section off. I'm gonna come back and show you here. What you can use is either Dremel, cut-off wheel, whatever you have. Small Dremel will cut this. This is very thin steel, but it's just a little spring. You can see I can press it by hand here. This will take the tension and relief off getting into reverse. Without this, guys, if you don't do this mod, it's possible, but you're gonna hate yourself, and you're gonna be, especially when it's cold, it's gonna be dang near impossible. So I highly recommend this, guys, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you exactly how I cut it and show how much actually comes off. All right guys, so here's the one ring. As you can see, I cut off almost exactly one little loop. You can see I cut it right in front of that. So it's one little piece that you shake off there, and then you just reassemble it. So that's pretty much all it is, guys. Again, you can just use a small Dremel of some sort, cut that end off, and this will make getting into reverse a lot easier. All right guys, one thing I wanted to show you is, you can see the actual transmission lever itself. This is the hole for where the reverse lockout goes. We've got it all back together now, so all I gotta do is slip this back in, like so, and we'll put the 1/2 inch bolt back in. Again guys, it's just a 1/2 inch bolt, so just go get a socket and tighten it back up, and then you're complete. This is the last for this step for the reverse lockout. Next we have to do is modify the breather tube. Guys, so next thing we're going to do is the vent tube here. So what we have is this tube that actually vents out for the transmission. There's one issue with it though. I'm not sure if it's specific for the Supra or whatever, but this vent tube has a little cap in it from Tremec. Whatever causes it, it makes the sticky shifter actually bleed or have fluid come up out of it. So what we need to do is take a flathead here, pry this little cap off. I've never taken this off, so it might take a little bit till we get this off. But you just need to take a flathead, and there you go. Look at that. Pop that off. Now we can get this over in the vise and pry it a little bit more. All right guys, so here's the cap taken off now. Here's the actual top piece. Here's the rubber mount I was speaking about, the spring that goes inside of it, and the actual, I guess you call it the breather part. This is what you need to remove. This little rubber piece gets clogged up and doesn't allow it to breathe properly. So once that's out, all you need to do is throw the spring that way apparently. So once you get this out guys, all you need to do is take this little spring and put it back in, press this back inside of it then, and then clamp everything back down. All right guys, now we got the cap back on. What I did is put a small zip tie, because this came off a little too easy for my liking. So I put a small zip tie on it just to make sure this cap doesn't fall off. But now that that rubber cap is out of the rubber seal, this is good to go. We'll move on to the next step. All right guys, next up we're gonna take off this Tremec shifter here. So if you wanna come over here real quick, this Tremec shifter is a factory and it's nice, but this doesn't work for the Supra. If you can see here, here's the aftermarket shifter that we have to use. For the Supra, the shifting mount point is further back. So to do that, Siki makes this aftermarket shifter that's quite nice. What you have to do is take these 1/2-inch bolts out here, and then we'll set this down in. You can see the detent ball here that sits down inside. What we're gonna do is first take off these 6 bolts, and then I'll show you the guts of the shifter itself. Hey, just a reminder, impact. All right, guys, you can see here, we have all the lubricant and stuff, and this was already pre-sealed. So before we put the new shifter on, I'm gonna put Toyota FIPG on this. I'm gonna scrape off all the old sealant, make sure all the threads are good in here. If you wanna come here closer real quick, you'll see that the inside of this transmission is also dry, guys. I want to make this very clear. Make sure when you put this in, you get the transmission in, put fluid in the car. They recommend Dextron ATF fluid for this. There's a couple different brands. I'm going to leave that up to you. I don't want to recommend fluid because that can be a touchy subject. But what we need to do next here is install the shifter. It will go right in the same exact spot. I'm going to take some of this fluid, or I'm not sure what this material is. Yeah, I'm just not really sure what it is, but I'm gonna put this on the new Siki shifter and I'm gonna seal it with Toyota FIPG. All right, guys, here's the first, like you can see where the mounting point is. You can see how much further back the Siki shifter is compared to the Tremec stock shifter. Again, the Tremec transmission is an aftermarket trans, so they don't know where your shift point's going to be. So this Siki shifter actually puts it back exactly where the Toyota Supra would be mounted at. And this also makes the throws quite a bit shorter than even the Tremec comes with. So this makes it quite nice. This side piece here unbolts, which I'm going to take these out. You want to make sure you unbolt the shifter part when installing to the car. It makes it way too hard. Just a recommendation for y'all. So I'm going to undo these bolts, and then I'm going to put Toyota FIPG around this and put the 1/2-inch bolts back in. So guys, I put Toyota FIPG on it. The cap broke, so this is a messy look, so I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and set this down real quick. Line the bolts up and start threading these in. All right, now my buddy Sean's got the rest of them here. Sean, can you, thank you very much, buddy. He went and cleaned up the threads for me, so thank you for that, bud. I do appreciate it. Get these started here. And then I recommend just hand cranking these down, guys. I wouldn't use the impact to draw these down, just so you don't strip the threads. All right, guys, so the shifter's down. I've got these torque down. I just hand tighten them, guys, so nothing special has to happen there, but the shifter's in. It's hard for me to shift it, but you can see everything moves properly. I really can't even crank down on it to the side right now. So that's it. Next up is, all right, guys, so we have the shifter on now. Everything moves properly. It's sealed up. Next up, we're going to install the bell housing on the transmission first, and we're actually gonna put the throw-up bearing on that. What we're gonna do, install it on here. Now, I just wanna make a disclaimer with this, guys. The reason we're doing that is because we have to measure from the throw-up bearing to the face of the actual bell housing itself to make sure it's shimmed properly. But when we do finally install it, the actual bell housing goes on the motor first, and then we install the transmission separately. It's to make install easier, but to actually get the shims right, we have to make sure to shim it out first, and we have to put the bell housing and everything on here. We're only gonna put a couple bolts on because it doesn't need to be cranked down fully. All right, guys, so next up what we're gonna do is install the bell housing, and we're gonna put on the throw-up bearing here. This is the hydraulic style throw-up bearing from Clutchmaster. I did a single plate clutch, full face. What you have here, if you come in close, we have the shims here. What I recommend for this is, I'm gonna show you guys step by step how to do this. Put all the shims inside. You have to put a bit of pressure. This is sitting in there. You have to press this out by hand. Don't put too much pressure, but just pull it out, press it out by hand from behind. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is put all these in, sit this down in like so, and now next up what I gotta do is bolt this up to the transmission itself. That one's good. All right, guys. So what we're doing here, taking a straight edge here, guys, and measuring out from the edge of the actual QuickTime bell housing to the front of the the throw-up bearing itself. And we're getting a distance of 60 now after removing it, so everything is lengthened, and we removed the correct amount of shims. So if BB's gonna go ahead and grab it here again.
60 millimeters, about where we're at with the measuring from the pressure plate face to the where the bell housing meets. You want to have that
distance. And that's for this clutch. And like we just watched Joel's video again here. We just wanted to make sure, but ours is slightly different. Each clutch is going to be different. They just can't be built identical. So that's where our distance at, guys. Again, you need to follow these steps to make sure you have your clutch set up properly too. All right, guys, next up what we're going to do is install this pilot bearing here. Again, this is specific for the T56 Magnum swap for the Supra. What do you need to do to install this? The best way to do it is to find a socket that mates up with it perfectly, like so. The best way to do it too is use the back or the fat end of it, because when you're beating this in, you want to make sure it's putting pressure on the actual metal ring and not the center area where the bearings are itself. So what we're going to do here is actually use this and use a rubber mallet here with a little bit of weight inside of it to go ahead and beat this into the actual crankshaft itself. All right, guys, so right now we're trying to install it. BB's here. He's going to go ahead and start beating in the pilot bearing. Take your time. If you feel like it's not going in straight, stop and then try to remove it. Don't make sure it's not going in sideways. All right, guys, so next up we have the flywheel here. Like if you buy the Clutchmaster clutch, it actually comes with some flywheel bolts, so you know there's no need to buy the ARP hardware. These need to be cranked down to 75 foot-pounds, and you need to make sure to use red Loctite. So let's go into the car here and show you guys how to install this. All right, guys, so what's going on right now is we're putting red Loctite on, and this is the hard part, lining this thing up, making sure it's lined up perfectly. All right, now we're tightening these up slowly, and then we're gonna be using a torque wrench to crank these down to 75 foot-pounds. Torquing down all the bolts right now, guys. So again, 75 foot-pounds, guys, and after this, we'll move on to the clutch and throw-up bearing. All right, guys, next up what we're doing here is installing the pressure plate and the actual clutch disc itself. Again, this is a Clutchmaster full-face FX300 clutch. We're going to go ahead and bolt this up. It comes with 6 10mm bolts you need to crank down. So let's go ahead and install this. So guys, we've got the clutch disc on, we've got the billet alignment tool lining everything up. Now BB's going to go ahead and put on the pressure plate. All right, guys, he's putting thread locker on it right now. We want to make sure we have thread locker on it, just to make sure it's safe. I want to correct myself also, guys. I misspoke earlier. It is actually 12mm bolts. They are not 10. Again, they are 12mm bolts. There's a total of 6 of them, and that's specific to this clutch too. You might have different experiences with different clutches, but with this full-face Clutchmasters, it is 6 12mm bolts. All right, guys, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and torque this down to 15 foot-pounds. We're gonna mark each bolt so we know the sequence. So we got 1, 2. You wanna crisscross them when you torque these down, guys, so it's easier just to mark the clutch like this. All right, guys, what we're doing right now is to measure out for the pilot bearing depth. Where are you measuring from?
You're measuring from the clutch face to the tip of the fingers, because the clutch face is going to sit out further than the fingers do.
Okay.
And then we're going to go from the bell housing to the backside, like you're measuring off the clutch face to here, and then you're going to subtract the 2.
Okay.
So that is about looks like about 11 millimeters. And now we're going to go from
We got 11 millimeters and
$71.
11 and 71. All right, guys, so next up we're going to be installing the QuickTime bell housing on the motor itself. So we're going to go ahead and crawl under here. Again, this is supposed to make it easy. You want to install this first before putting it on the trans itself. And they have specific bolts for it. Then I'll show you guys what you need to do. All right, guys, so these two here go on the bottom. The rest go around the rest of the bell housing. And then you have two extra that are for the starter itself. So we're going to go ahead and throw these on quick. Putting every bolt in right now, guys. It's going to take some time. All right, guys, next up we got to put the starter in here. Joel GRANNAS includes the two bolts that you need to install this. So what we're going to do is do that. Also, quick reminder, make sure you take off the 12 millimeter nut. This way you can put it back on then to hold on the actual starter cable and then plug it back in also. But let's go ahead and drop this in. All right, guys, so if you can barely see, we have the starter on right now. He's putting the last 12 millimeter starter bolt on. Once that bolt is on, we are good to go and we can move on to the next step. All right, guys, so next up you're gonna put in throw-up bearing lines. You have a top and a bottom. Your top line is your bleeder line. You wanna make sure that's at the top. This way you don't get any air bubbles in the line itself. And then your bottom is actual for the hydraulic fluid itself. We zip tied it here to keep them from rubbing, and you can then have them come out. This is the big hole here in the actual trans tunnel itself, and the transmission itself. So next up, we're going to go ahead and put this in the car and see how it mounts up. All right, guys, so what I need to do here next, you can see my hand here. I gotta beat up the tab right here. So if I get... just ever so slightly. So I'm gonna hit it a few more times. And that's all you have to do and you're done. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do here, slide the trans under. What we have to do for this though, we have to start from the back of the car because we are on jack stands. So we need to slide this in the back. We gotta move all this stuff out of the way. All right, guys, so we got the trans here. We're about to put it up into the tunnel itself, up into the actual QuickTime bell housing. So guys, we're gonna go ahead and crank it up here. So go ahead, Sean, and start cranking on that for me.
Shaft is touching.
What's touching?
It was touching right there.
Okay.
Fucking alignment.
Hold on.
All right, stop.
We're heading back here.
Get back.
Come back here.
All right, guys, so next up we need to do here is install the mount. What we're gonna do first is put the Prothane mount through the holes here. Once we do that, we can actually put the actual hard mount on the body. So let's go ahead and install the urethane mount first. All right, guys, now we've got the chromoly mount on. Everything's tightened down. We've got the bell housing on. Next thing we need to do is get the drive shaft on, and we have to put on the billet adapter that goes back to the diff itself. So let's go ahead and put the billet adapter on first, and then we'll slip on the drive shaft. All right, guys, so putting in the drive shaft now. Spin it here. Like that. Is that right? No, the other way was right. Push it back towards you again. There we go. So what we're gonna have to do is that. All right.
Put the other ones in a while.
Yeah. Pull that all back again towards you. Sorry. All right, so we've got the diff donut, the diff donut on here now, and we have the drive shaft in, guys. The next thing up we have to do is the wiring, and we also have to bleed the line for the clutch, and I think that should be it. All right, guys, so I went ahead and decided to put in some of the interior here, so I went ahead and put the 4-piece panel back in. The This it's a rubber boot area. Next, we got to put the stock shifter back on, and then we're going to put on the stock looking shift knob from GRANNAS Racing.
All right, guys, so next up here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to bleed the clutch line here, which mine runs the whole way back. Clutchmaster must have sent me the wrong line, and it's way too long, as you can see. Most of your guys will run to about here. It's just barely stick out of the trans tunnel hole, so don't think yours is going to be this long. This was a mistake from Clutchmaster. This was nothing for Joel's fault. So I'm going to go ahead and bleed the clutch here. One other thing I'm going to show you guys is, for the clutch line here, I put some DEI heat wrap on it just for rubbing reasons. I just didn't want to take any chances. This is stainless steel. I just took that extra precaution. Another thing I'm doing different from others is I made a stainless steel hardline. If you can just see the top there, I'm pulling out with a red arrow. I'm going to now attach my feed line to go into the hydraulic throat bearing to that right there, and then I can bleed it. So let's go ahead and bolt this up. All right, guys, as you can see there, I've got the line attached now. What we need to do next is get fluid in this bad boy. The recommended for this Clutchmaster clutch is .3 or .4. I'm going to use the better of the two. I'm going to use .4 in this. Any fluid will work, but you know, there is some nicer ones out there. I'm just going to be using regular advanced auto fluid. So let's go ahead and put some in it and start bleeding the clutch line.
All right, guys, don't mind my chicken scratch handwriting here, but what we're going to do is start wiring up the car. We got the speed sensor here and the reverse lockout. What we're going to use here first is the reverse lockout. Just an FYI, these two red wires, once we get in the car, doesn't matter for polarity reasons, like there's positive ground here. As long as they're just wired into these two wires I'll show you here, that's all it's going to matter. So let's go ahead and get in the car, and I'm going to show you which two wires you need to clip and wire this directly into. All right, guys, so this is the reverse connector for a stock W58 R154 V160. For an automatic, I believe it's slightly different, but if you're a manual car with the Toyota Supra, this is what you'll have. Now, this is an aftermarket harness, but this is this factory style plug. What you're going to do here is snip these two wires and then just splice these wires into this connector right here, and this is for your reverse. I personally crimp these on and then use heat shrink around it to keep any dust, dirt, and debris out of it, just to be safe. And then once you do that, we can go ahead and test to see if the reverse lockout works. All right, so we've got BB here. We're about to finalize the SGI box here, guys. Let me go ahead and focus here for you real quick. So what we have here is 12-volt power. We have the ground and the ground here, if you guys can see. Oh, let's see if we can zoom out here. You can see the ground here. This just goes to anywhere on the body itself. Then you have the sensor ground and signal in. This comes from the speed sensor. Any one of these wires, it doesn't matter which one you want to put in. That sensor can go into either or. And then you have this output 5. This actually comes directly from the factory speed sensor into the SGI box. Now, what BB just did here, he found a power wire on the body here, and this is where I want to be critical or crucial for you guys, because you're going to want to use this. So which one was it here, BB?
Down here, Ryan says this comes factory in the car, automatic or manual.
Yep.
It's a white plug and it has 5 wires, and the wires are black and red, green and white. Looks like we have a blue and red, a purple and black, and a blue and red.
Okay.
Your 12-volt switched wire,
which we're going to use a power probe here. We're going to key the car on.
The wire was black and red, so
try black and red first. Key the car on, and with the power probe, once that light comes on, that means we have, well, 12-volt power, right? Now turn it off and it keys off, put it back in, and it keys on. So there you go, guys. That's the wire you want to use. Again, what color was that?
Black and red.
Black and red, guys. Again, black and red's the wire you want to use to power up the SGI box. All right, guys, so I just keyed on the car here. We've got the SGI box hooked up. Got the little red light on. We got our 12-volt power there. Everything's good. Now we're going to start it up to neutral. See if this works. Letting it out. That's it. We gotta turn this off, or we're gonna die. With the carbon monoxide, whatever it is, we're gonna die. money. Look at this. And it's not like it takes a lot of effort either, guys. Like, it's just down, money. Fucking money shifts. I can't beat on it yet, guys, because the fact it's breaking in. We're not going very fast either because we're setting up the SGI box right now. I do want to properly break in this clutch. I am hearing some clanging and stuff. I know they do say this T56 Magnum can make a little bit of noise down low, but once you're moving, this is way, way, way quieter than my R154 was. That thing would whine and squeal, make all sorts of noises. This thing's not making any of that. Wasn't in the right gear. Guys, we are going 80 right now in 6th gear. I'm turning 2,700 RPMs. This is awesome. I can cruise on the highway like butter. Look at that. Oh my God. Fucking happier than pig and shit. Alright, I believe the hype. I believe the hype now. I get it. It's awesome. Alright guys, so you saw the last of the video there. There was a couple things, we went over the car again, and it drives perfect. It literally drives perfect. I'm still smiling right now because I'm just so happy with it. Everything came out exactly the way it should have. Just like anything, like I actually mentioned in the video, there's times like when you're installing it, like you're getting frustrated, just like anything, it's new. You've never done it before. You're gonna have times you're like, is this wrong? Am I doing it wrong? Just step back from it and go, look, what am I doing wrong? You go, oh, I'm just off a slight bit. Let's push it up this way and it'll slide in. Just dumb stuff like that. And it works out perfectly. Just take your time, follow the steps, and just take a deep breath. It is quite easy, and GRANNAS does make it quite easy with his kit. Again, I'm gonna list everything for him down here below, all his information, where to go to. Again, it's grannasracing.com. The kit ships right to you. You don't have to do anything. So on that note, guys, thank you very much for tuning in today. If you would, go check out my Facebook and Instagram page. I'll also, again, list all of Joel GRANNAS's at GRANNAS Racing's work, all his website and stuff down below. Thank you guys very much, and I will talk to you later.